Hi, I'm Kara-Leah, and today I want to talk about judgment. Moving beyond judgment feels to me like a critical step for humanity to take. It means that when we look out in the world at the things that are going on, we're no longer perceiving them as good or bad, even as right or wrong, but we look out at them and we see them for what they are, and we see the results that are occurring as a result of those things, okay? See, judgment is so ingrained, endemic to the human condition, that to perceive without judgment seems like an impossibility until it happens to you. Or even another way of looking at it is that until you perceive without judgment, you don't realize how judgment was a core way that you were perceiving prior to that. And for me, it comes and goes a lot. Like when I had an awakening experience in 2004, I was perceiving without judgment, because one way to what's waking up mean? Generally, we perceive the world through our minds, okay? And our minds have thoughts and beliefs and ideas and judgments and assumptions about the way things should be or shouldn't be or whatever. And so we perceive the world through that filter. When you wake up, or as you're waking up, there is no, you don't perceive through your mind anymore. It's just perception perceiving that which is. So I had moments of it, of just perception, and it's extraordinary. Just extraordinary. And then, after the psychosis, I literally woke up, in the psych ward, and I was out of just perception and right back in perceiving through my mind again. And with perceiving through my mind, all of a sudden I was aware of how extraordinarily judgmental I was about everything. Other people, the world, the way it was functioning, and myself. And I think I lived with that really severe judgment for, about another 3 or 4 years. And it made life horrendous. Like the degree of suffering because of that judgment was enormous. But what made it worse was because I had had an experience of just perception and I knew how it felt. So being back in judgment was like, oh. Now what I find is that I flip in and out, and one of the first clues that I'm more in mind than, say, just perception is when I notice I'm judging, alrighty? When someone says something or does something and I judge it, and it happens so fast, it's like, oh, but I catch it, it's like there's an awareness, and I catch it, and I can let the judgment go, and in the letting go of judgment, of seeing through judgment, perception perception is always there, it's just that the filter of judgment or mind is in front of it, but I can kind of let it go, and then it's just perception again. The interesting thing about externally judging things, which most of us do all the time, constant judgment, good or bad, is that I've noticed in myself, and I'm not even going to assume that it's the same for all of you, because I'm just noticing in myself, that the degree with which I'm judging the external world tends to mirror the degree with which I'm judging myself. So when I first came out of the psychosis and after the awakening, I was judging the external world so much. And I didn't realize at the time, but it was a reflection of the unconscious judgment I was passing on myself, okay? So then once I started to realize that, it's like, oh, right. the extent to which I judge externally is the extent to which I judge internally. It became like a way for me to tell where I was sitting with myself. And now what I'm noticing is that because I am perceiving life less and less through the judgment filter, it's because I am judging myself less and less and less. And in the dissolvement of that judgment filter, what arises is pure acceptance, right? Pure acceptance also goes by another word, and that word is love. Anytime you judge externally or anytime you judge yourself, you are not loving the world or you're not loving yourself. And so when we talk about love is all you need and we're only ever coming from either love or fear, and then all we need to do is love the world, all of that, new age woo-woo hippie stuff, it has a solid concrete base in reality in that dropping judgment means stepping into full acceptance, which means coming into a place of love, which in essence becomes just perception. And my experience, or the experience I have of just perception, is it is love. It's one and the same. And right now I'm just tuning in, you see. I'm just allowing myself to drop back down into the field of being, because it felt like I was beginning to lose where my center. It's like I was shifting into my mind more, okay? So judgment. When we're activists, when we're interacting with social and political issues, if we're coming from a place of judgment, it has certain results. It perpetrates the myth of separation. It means that when we notice that we're judging, that we're not coming from a place of love or just perception. Of course, the danger in this, and I fell into this trap, is then we judge ourselves for judging. Right? This is the layers that happen. I'm not sure how to undo that as such, except to just keep noticing it and letting it go. And noticing it and letting it go. So when you notice that you are judging the external world, take a moment to reflect or ask, does this mirror how I'm judging myself? When you notice yourself judging the external world and or yourself, notice if you then judge yourself for judging. Not just notice that, right? What I had noticed is that as I drop judgment, it's like there's a purity of action that arises. So that means that I'm then coming from that ground of being, and it has a different feeling, a different space. Whereas if I am in a judgment space and I take action from that space of judgment, that purity is not there. And what it feels like is, because I am acting from judgment, that the consequences of my action will be different. If I'm acting from the ground of being, it can be the same action, but the consequences of my action will be different. And this is a subtle nuance that I think it feels, I don't want to say I think, it's a subtle nuance that feels like it's really important for us to be able to discern. That when we act in the world, when we're taking action on social, political, economic issues, the place that we're acting from, it's just as crucial as the action that we're taking. Okay? When we act from a place of judgment, we're perpetrating judgment. When we act from a place of perception, the ground of being, from love, we're perpetrating love. And this is why when my friend asked me that question, he asked me a question on my video, how does emptiness make judgment on environmental issues? Emptiness doesn't. There is no judgment. But it doesn't mean there's no action either. Okay? What it means is the action is coming from a different place. I'll look at that aspect in another video. For now though, this week, maybe just contemplate, just notice how often you judge things, and then when you notice the judging, notice if you're judging the judging. Just see what happens if you go down that rabbit hole. So I'm Kara-Leah, and there will be more of these videos.